Okey is a tile-based game, very popular in Turkey. It is almost always played with 4 players, though in principle can be played with 2 or 3. It is very similar to the game Rummy Cube as it is played with the same set of boards and tiles but with different rules. The game apparently evolved from the original Rummy Cube through cultural contacts of Gastarbeiter in Germany. In Turkey and among Turkish communities abroad, it is very popular not only at homes but also at coffee houses. Distribution of tiles and determination of joker. The first dealer is chosen at random. After the hands have been played and scored, the turn to deal passes to the right. The 106 tiles are placed face down on the table and thoroughly mixed. Then the players set them up into 21 stacks of 5 tiles, the tiles in each pile being face down. 1 tile is left over. This is temporarily kept by the dealer. There is no specific rule about how many stacks should be in front of each player. It is convenient to have at least 6 in front of the dealer, but this makes no real difference to the game. The dealer now throws the die twice. The result of the first throw selects one of the tile stacks in front of the dealer, counting from left to right. The dealer places the single remaining tile on top of this selected stack. If the number thrown is greater than the number of stacks in front of the dealer, then the count will continue using the stacks in front of the player to dealer's right, and one of these will be selected. The selected stack now has 6 tiles. The second throw of the die selects one of the tiles in the selected stack, counting upwards from the bottom of the stack. The selected tile is extracted from the stack and placed face up on top of it. If the selected tile is a false joker, it is returned to the selected stack and the second throw of the die is repeated until a numbered tile is selected. This face-up tile determines the joker for the game, a wild tile that can be used to represent other tiles to complete a combination. The joker is the tile of the same color and one number greater than the face-up tile. For example, if the face-up tile is the green 10, the green 11s are jokers. The false jokers are not wild, they are used only to represent the tiles that have become jokers. So for example, when the green 11s are jokers, the false jokers are played as green 11s. If the face-up tile is a 13, the 1s of the same color are jokers. Now the stacks of tiles are distributed to the players. The player to dealer's right will receive 15 tiles and the others 14 each. The player to the right of the dealer takes the next stack after the selected stack with the face-up tile on top of it. Then the player opposite the dealer takes the following stack, and so on anti-clockwise around the table, until each player has 2 stacks. Now the player to the dealer's right receives the whole of the next stack, but the player sitting opposite the dealer is given only the top 4 tiles of the following stack. The player to the dealer's left receives the last tile of this stack and 3 tiles from the top of the next stack. And finally the dealer takes the last 2 tiles from this stack and 2 from the next stack. In the above diagram, the dealer threw a 5, placed the spare tile onto of the 5th stack from her left. She then threw a 2, and took the second tile from the bottom of the selected stack and placed it on top. It is a red 4, so red 5s will be jokers for this deal. Now player 2 must take stack A, player 3 stack B, player 4 C, player 1 D, player 2 E, player 3 F, player 4 G, player 1 H, and player 2 I. Next, player 3 takes the top 4 tiles of stack J, player 4 the last tile of J, and 3 from K, and player 1 2 from K, and 2 from L. All the players should arrange their tiles so that they can see their faces, but the other players cannot. Wooden racks are often used for this. The remaining tiles are left for the players to draw from during the game. They are moved to the middle of the table, without looking at them or disturbing their order. Play. Before the play begins, if any player holds the tile that matches the face-up tile on top of the last stack of 6 tiles, the player may show that tile, and score 1 point. Now the player to the dealer's right begins the play by discarding 1 tile, face up. After this, each player in turn may either take the tile just discarded by the previous player, or draw the next tile from the supply in the center of the table, and must then discard one unwanted tile. This continues in anti-clockwise rotation until a player forms a winning hand and exposes it, ending the play. Discarded tiles are placed to the right of the player who discarded them, in a stack, so that only the most recent discard in the stack is visible. The usual rule is that you are allowed to look through all the tiles in the discard stacks to your right and to your left, but you can only see the exposed top tiles of the two discard stacks on the other side of the table. The object of the game is to collect sets and runs. A set consists of 3 tiles or 4 tiles of the same number and different colors. A run consists of 3 or more consecutive tiles of the same color. The 1 can be used as the lowest tile, below the 2, or as the highest tile, above the 13, but not both at once. So green 1, 2, 3 or yellow 1, 2, 1, 3, 1 would be valid runs, but black the 2nd of January 13 would not be valid. A winning hand consists of 14 tiles formed entirely into sets and runs, for example 2 sets of 3 and 2 runs of 4, or a run of 6 plus a run of 3 plus a set of 4. No tile can be used as part of more than one combination at the same time. Another type of winning hand consists of 7 pairs. Each pair must consist of 2 identical tiles. 2 tiles of the same number in different colors do not make a pair. The colors must be the same as well. If you have a winning hand, then you can end the play by exposing all 14 of your tiles after discarding. Apart from the discards and the face-up tile on top of the 6-tile stack, no tiles are exposed until a player shows a winning hand. No sets or runs are exposed during the game. Tiles are always drawn from the top of the next available stack. When only the final stack of 6 tiles remains, the exposed tile is removed from the top of this stack and the other 5 tiles are drawn in order. The exposed tile can never be drawn when there are no tiles left in the center except the single exposed tile. If the next player to play does not want to take the previous player's discard, the play ends because there are no cards left to draw. As already explained, the 2 tiles that are the same color as the face-up tile and 1 greater in number of the jokers. These tiles can be used to represent any tile the holder desires, in order to complete a set or run. For example, if the red 4 is face-up, the red 5s are jokers. Green 6, red 5, green 9 would count as a run using jokers for the green 7 and 8. Alternatively, yellow 10, black 10, red 5 would be a set, using the red 5 to represent the red or green 10. When collecting a hand of 7 pairs, a joker can be used with any tile to form a pair. The 2 false jokers, the tiles without numbers, are used only to represent the joker tiles. So for example, when red 5s are jokers, the false jokers are played as red 5s. For example, red 4, false joker, red 6 is a run, and black 5, green 5, yellow 5, false joker is a set. New players may wonder what is the purpose of using a different tile as the joker for each game. It would seem to be logically equivalent to use the false jokers as jokers and every tile to be what it appears to be. A possible reason may be that if through any defect in the tiles, some players learn to recognize the false jokers from the back, that would give them an unfair advantage. If a different tile is used as the joker in each game, recognizing a joker from the back becomes much more difficult. If you have a winning hand of groups and runs using at least one joker, you do not have to expose it immediately. If you wish, you can continue playing in the hope of forming a winning hand plus a joker. If you're able to end the game by discarding a joker and exposing your remaining 14 tiles as a winning hand, your win is worth twice as much as an ordinary win. Note that by continuing to play instead of exposing your ordinary win, you run the risk that another player may complete a winning hand and expose it before you can achieve your double win, in which case you gain nothing for your concealed winning hand. Scoring. Each player begins the game with 20 points and loses points each time another player wins a game, as follows. When a player wins an ordinary game, each of the other players loses 2 points. When a player wins by discarding a joker, each other player loses 4 points. When a player wins with 7 pairs, each other player loses 4 points. Also, if at the start of the play, a player shows the tile that matches the face-up tile on the 6-tile stack, each of the other players loses 1 point. This is known as gostomy, and can only be claimed before the holder of the matching tile first draws a tile. If the game ends without any player exposing a winning hand, then there is no score. Play continues until any player's score reaches 0 or less. The 2 players with the highest scores at that time are the winners and the 2 with the lowest scores are the losers. Variations. Some play that any player whose score reaches 0 or less leaves the game, but the other players continue to play. Some play that the players sitting opposite each other are partners. In practice, partners cannot help each other much, except by cheating. In the partnership game, presumably each team starts with 20 points. And when a player exposes a winning hand, the opposing team loses 2 or 4 points as appropriate. If a player shows the tile matching the exposed tile at the start, the other team loses 1 point. Some players use the exposed tile as the last tile to be drawn from the center, when all the other tiles have been taken. Some players omit the formal procedure for choosing the joker and distributing the tiles. Having shuffled the tiles face down on the table, each player simply takes any 14 tiles from the table and a tile is turned up to be the joker. When drawing tiles during the play, any face-down tile can be taken from the stock on the table. Some play that a player who wins a game with tiles of one color only, the score is doubled. The other players lose 4 points if the winner discarded an ordinary tile, 8 points if the winner's final discard was a joker. Some only award this double score for a hand consisting entirely of red tiles or black tiles. Official rules of Okey 101. Okey 101 is played with 4 players over multiple rounds. The object of the game is to collect as little points as possible at the end of the game. The player who has the least amount of points after all of the rounds are completed is declared the winner. Points are determined according to the face value of the tile. A round is completed when there are no more tiles left to draw from the bank or when one of the players has completed his/her hand. A game is played over a predetermined amount of rounds. All of the rounds must be completed before a winner is declared, not just a best of rounds. Starting the game after a random dealer is chosen, each player is given 21 tiles and the dealer gets 22 tiles. The rest of the tiles go face down into the bank and one tile which indicates what the joker will be is turned face up. The game is played counterclockwise. The dealer starts the game by throwing away one of his tiles. The turn then goes to the player on his right. A player starts their turn by either taking a tile from the bank or taking the tile thrown away by the previous player. The player then either opens them or adds to the sets already on the table. If the player can't open, they finish the turn by throwing away one of the tiles from their hand. A player must always throw away a tile to finish the turn, even when finishing their entire hand. The joker, the tile that indicates what the joker will be, changes each individual round. The 2 joker tiles are the same value as this tile's value plus 1. These jokers look different from the standard tiles and vary in appearance according to the Okey set used. The actual jokers are the actual tiles that get replaced by the false jokers. If, for example, the indicator tile is a blue 5, the actual jokers are the 2 blue 6 tiles and the joker tiles have the value of the blue 6. Sets and opening your hand 101 is the minimum amount of points required to open your hand. In order to open, the player needs to create sets of either 3 or 4 identical numbered tiles of different colors or running numbers of the same color. A set must have a minimum of 3 tiles. Players are only allowed to add to existing sets on the table after they have opened with a minimum of 101 points already. Players are of course allowed to open and then add to other sets within the same turn. If a player takes the discarded tile from the previous player, they must always use that tile. If the player hasn't opened yet, she must open with that tile included. It is not allowed to keep the tile in your hand. A player is allowed to take the discarded tile and then return it and still take from the bank without receiving a penalty. Doubles. Another way to open your hand is with a minimum of 5 doubles. Doubles are 2 identical tiles. If you open with doubles, you are not allowed to lay normal sets anymore. You are, however, allowed to add tiles to existing sets from other players on the table. If all 4 players open with doubles within one round, that round gets cancelled and replayed. No players receive any penalties. Point scoring and end of the game. In order to complete a round, a player must play all the sets from their hand and finish with discarding a tile. The other players receive penalty points. When a player finishes their hand, they receive 101 minus points. The other players receive penalty points according to the total value of all of the tiles left in their hand. If they have not opened yet, they automatically receive 202 penalty points instead. If a player finishes their hand by discarding the joker, all points get doubled instead. The player that finished receives 202 minus points, and players that haven't opened receive 404 penalty points. If a player has opened with doubles instead of sets, the points also get doubled at the end of the round. If he finishes his hand, other players receive double penalty points. If another player finishes the round, the player that opened with doubles receive double the value of their remaining tiles in penalty points. If a player finishes their entire hand in one turn when none of the other players have opened yet, all points get doubled as well. Points get doubled again if the player is also able to finish with a joker as well. In this case, the player that finished receives 404 minus points and all other players receive 808 penalty points. When all of the rounds have finished, all penalty and minus points of all of the rounds are added together and the player with the least amount of points is the winner. Additional penalties. Players receive an additional penalty of 101 for the following actions. These penalties are added to the total points for that round. If a player has a joker left in their hand when another player finishes the round or the round had ended, they receive a 101 penalty. When they have not opened yet, they receive the standard total penalty of 202. If a player discards the joker, they receive a 101 penalty. If a player tries to open, but does not have the required 101 points and they have to take back their tiles, they receive a 101 penalty. If a player throws away a tile that can be added to a set that is already on the table, they receive a 101 penalty. This happens even if the player hasn't opened yet. The player does not receive a penalty if it is the last tile they discard when finishing their hand. If a player adds multiple tiles on the table and takes them back, they receive a 101 penalty. The player is only allowed to take back the last tile they put down without a penalty. Additional rules: if the indicator tile is a 13, the joker then becomes a 1. Sets of the same number are not allowed to have the same color in them. Running sets are not allowed to continue from 13 to the 1.